I never imagined my stepfather would be the one to turn my whole world upside down. Growing up, I always thought the biggest problems in life would come from school drama or maybe a few arguments at home, but nothing could have prepared me for what I was about to uncover. It all started on a regular Tuesday. Nothing felt off at first. The sky was gray, I was running late for work, and Mom had already left for her morning yoga class. Just an ordinary day, or so I thought. My stepfather, James, had been in our lives for about 6 years. He married my mom after she went through a tough divorce with my dad. At first, he seemed like a decent guy. He worked hard, always had advice to give, and was the kind of man who never raised his voice. He brought this calm energy into the house, and even though we weren't super close, I respected him. My mom seemed happy again, and that was enough for me. But the thing about secrets is, they never stay buried for long. And some truths come out in the most unexpected ways. That morning, I came back home because I forgot my wallet. I wasn't planning to be there for more than 5 minutes. I walked through the door, and everything seemed normal. The house was quiet, just like it usually is when no one's around. But as I went to grab my wallet from the kitchen counter, I noticed something strange. James' phone was buzzing like crazy on the table. I'm not the kind of person who snoops, but the way it kept going off caught my attention. Curiosity got the best of me, and I glanced at the screen. The name that popped up made my stomach drop. It wasn't my mom. It was someone I didn't recognize, Ashley, with a little red heart emoji next to her name. Text after text was showing up, things no one should be sending if they're in a committed relationship. I told myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe it was a coworker, maybe it was innocent, but deep down, I knew something wasn't right. I took a screenshot and sent it to myself. I know that might sound like a betrayal, but my instincts told me this wasn't something I could ignore. I decided not to tell my mom, at least not yet. I needed more than just a few suspicious messages. So I started paying closer attention. I watched how James acted, how often he left the house, how quickly he'd shut off his phone when someone walked into the room. The little things started to add up. And then, one day, I followed him. What I saw that afternoon made my heart sink. He wasn't where he said he'd be. He wasn't at the hardware store, or running errands like he claimed. He was parked outside someone's apartment, and within minutes, a woman came out and got into his car. They drove off laughing, like they didn't have a care in the world. I sat there, frozen, not knowing what to do next. It's strange how one moment can change everything you believe about a person. This man, who sat at our dinner table every night, who kissed my mom goodbye each morning, was living a double life. And the worst part? I still didn't know how far it went, or what kind of lies had been told to keep it all hidden. What happened next? Honestly, I still think about it every single day. Because the truth I discovered after that would not only shatter my mom, it would pull me into a situation I never asked to be part of. I thought finding out about the cheating would be the worst part. But I was wrong. So wrong. And what came next was something I never could have imagined. I didn't go home right away after seeing James with that woman. I drove around for hours, trying to make sense of what I had just witnessed. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. I kept asking myself, why would he do this to my mom? She gave him everything. A home. A family. Trust. And he threw it all away for some secret relationship? I knew I couldn't confront him without knowing more. If I was going to protect my mom from getting hurt, I had to be sure of everything. Every detail. That night at dinner, I watched him closely. he acted like nothing had happened. Laughing at some show on TV, asking me about work, talking to Mom like they were perfectly fine. It made me feel sick. How could he look her in the eye and lie so easily? I couldn't decide what was worse, the betrayal itself or the way he could hide it so well. My mom was sitting there smiling, completely unaware of the storm that was building right under her roof. A few days later, I went through his study when he wasn't home. I know, it sounds invasive. But at that point, I needed answers. I found a drawer locked in his desk. That was weird, he never locked anything. I remembered he had a small box of old keys in the garage, so I waited until the next morning when both of them were out and tried every single one. When the drawer finally opened, I just stood there staring. Inside were a few envelopes, some receipts, and a second phone. A whole phone I'd never seen before. It didn't even have a passcode. When I turned it on, it was like stepping into another version of his life. There were dozens of texts, some from that same woman, Ashley, but also from another name I didn't recognize. The messages weren't just about meeting up. They were about money. Gifts. Plans. One message even mentioned me and my mom, which sent chills down my spine. She doesn't suspect a thing, it said. Her daughter's starting to ask questions, though. That was when I realized he knew I was watching. He knew someone was getting suspicious. At that point, I started feeling like I was in over my head. This wasn't just some affair. There was something else going on, something deeper, more twisted. I took photos of everything I could and sent them to a private folder I had created. I still hadn't said a word to my mom. Every time I looked at her, I felt like I was carrying a secret too big to hide. But I didn't want to be the one to break her heart without being absolutely sure about what we were dealing with. The next strange thing happened on a Sunday afternoon. James suddenly told my mom he had to fly out for a business emergency. He never traveled for work. Ever. That set off every alarm in my head. I offered to drive him to the airport, just to keep an eye on him. He looked at me kind of funny when I insisted, but he agreed. The weirdest part? He never went inside the airport. I watched from the parking lot as he got into another car and drove off with someone I couldn't see clearly. No luggage. No ticket. Just gone. That's when I knew something wasn't adding up. And I had a feeling that what I was about to uncover next would change everything, not just for me or my mom, but for all of us. Whatever James was hiding wasn't just about cheating anymore. It felt bigger, darker, and way more dangerous than I ever expected. After James disappeared in that mystery car, I sat there in the parking lot with 100 thoughts racing through my head. I didn't go home right away. Instead, I started looking into the messages I had saved from his secret phone. One name kept popping up, Daniel. At first, I thought it was just another friend or maybe someone helping him cover up the affair. But when I searched the name online, I found something that made my blood run cold. Daniel wasn't just some random guy. He had been involved in a real estate scam a few years ago. Nothing ever stuck legally, but his name came up in forums and local news articles, mostly linked to fraud and shady business deals. It hit me then, James wasn't just hiding a relationship. He was involved in something much bigger. Something that could put all of us at risk. Suddenly, the business emergency, the money conversations in the texts, the secret trips, it all started to look like he was trying to disappear before something came crashing down. But what? And how much did my mom actually know? That night, I tried talking to her. I asked casual questions, like if James had ever mentioned any problems at work or if she'd noticed anything different about him. She just laughed it off. "You worry too much," she said. "James is just stressed." But the way her voice tightened and the way she looked away when she said it made me think, maybe she wasn't as clueless as I thought. Maybe she was in denial. Or maybe she knew more than she was letting on. Meanwhile, I started getting strange phone calls. No one would speak. Just silence. Once, I picked up and heard faint breathing before the line went dead. It felt like someone was watching me. Like they knew I was digging into things I wasn't supposed to. I started locking my door at night. Double-checking windows. Every little sound made me jump. My anxiety was through the roof, but I couldn't stop now. I needed to understand what James was doing, who Daniel really was, and why everything suddenly felt like we were caught in the middle of something criminal. I even considered going to the police, but with what? A few text messages? A name tied to old scams? I didn't know what the full story was yet. And if James was watching me too, then going to the wrong person might only make things worse. I started feeling trapped in my own home, pretending like everything was normal while trying to untangle a web of lies that kept growing bigger each day. And just when I thought I'd reached a dead end, I found something that made my stomach twist, a photo hidden deep in the phone gallery. A picture of my mom, but taken from outside our house. From the street. Like someone had been watching her. The photo shook me to my core. It wasn't just a casual picture, it was a close-up shot of my mom standing in the kitchen, laughing at something James had said. I could almost hear her voice in my head. But the most chilling part? The timestamp. It was taken the night before I'd started noticing the strange things happening around the house. Someone had been watching us. Someone knew exactly where we were and when. I didn't even think twice. I grabbed the photo and confronted James. I waited until late that evening, when he came home from one of his usual business trips, a trip I hadn't heard about until I checked his phone. As soon as he walked through the door, I slammed the phone down on the table in front of him. My voice was steady, though my heart raced. "Who is Daniel? And why are you taking pictures of Mom?" He froze, his face draining of color. For a moment, I thought he might deny everything, spin some kind of lie, but instead, he looked at me with a mixture of guilt and fear. It was almost as if he was trapped, like he knew the truth was too far gone to hide anymore. He didn't answer right away, and that silence stretched longer than I could handle. Finally, he spoke, his voice low and shaky. "You have no idea what you're getting into. I never wanted you to be involved in this." His words were like a punch to the gut. I was already in the middle of it, whether I liked it or not. "Who is he, James? Why are you threatening our family?" His eyes darted around the room, as if looking for an escape. "You don't understand. There's no easy way to explain it." Before I could push for more, there was a knock at the door. It was sharp, urgent. My heart leapt in my chest. James' face paled even further, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of genuine fear in his eyes. "Don't open it," he whispered. "Whatever you do, don't open that door." But it was already too late. The knock came again, louder this time. The knock echoed through the house, filling the silence with a sense of urgency. I stood frozen for a second, the weight of James' warning hanging heavy in the air. He was staring at the door, his expression now one of pure dread. "Don't open it," he repeated, but it was too late. Something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to let him control the situation any longer. I took a deep breath and made my way to the door, my hand shaking as I reached for the handle. Before I could even turn the knob, the door burst open. A man in a black suit pushed past me, his face cold and impassive. He didn't say a word at first, just looked at James with an intensity that sent a chill through my bones. My mind was racing. Who was this guy? Why did James look so terrified of him? "Where is it?" the man said in a low, gravelly voice. James stumbled back, his face pale. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. My heart started pounding, and I felt the tension in the room grow thick. The man took a step forward, his gaze flicking briefly to me before returning to James. "You know what I'm talking about. The money. The documents. You can't keep running forever." James seemed to deflate, his entire posture sagging. It was like watching a man cornered, knowing there was no way out. The man stepped closer, and that's when I noticed something even more chilling. His hand was gripping something hidden under his coat. A gun. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. The reality of what was happening hit me hard. This was no longer just an affair. It was something criminal, dangerous, something much bigger than I could have imagined. My breath caught in my throat as I realized that my mom, my whole family, was caught in the middle of whatever James had gotten involved in. Before I could react, the man turned to me. "You need to stay out of this," he warned, his eyes narrowing. "It's not your fight." The man's words hung in the air, cold and threatening. I could feel my body tense up, every muscle frozen as I stood there, caught between fear and the need for answers. James was visibly shaken now, his whole demeanor collapsing under the weight of this stranger's presence. He tried to speak, but his voice trembled. "Please, just give me some more time. I'll get it to you. I swear." The man didn't even flinch. His eyes never left James as he stepped closer, pressing him with the full force of his presence. "Time's up," he said, his tone final. He turned his gaze to me then, and I saw something that made my stomach drop. His hand shifted slightly, revealing a sharp, glinting object. It wasn't a gun. It was a knife. My heart skipped a beat. I didn't have a choice. I grabbed the nearest object I could find, an old lamp from the table, and swung it at the man. It hit his arm, knocking the knife to the floor. The man cursed, stumbling back, and in that split second, James bolted for the door. But instead of running, he turned toward me with a panicked expression. "Get out of here. Now." I hesitated for a moment, still reeling from the shock of everything. But as the man recovered and lunged toward us, everything clicked. James wasn't just hiding an affair. He was in deep with dangerous people. But the twist? It wasn't just the money or the deals. James had been trying to protect me this whole time, by keeping me in the dark. And just as the man lunged again, I realized. James had betrayed more than just my mom. He'd betrayed all of us. The man lunged forward, but before he could reach us, I managed to grab James' arm, pulling him out the door and into the yard. The rush of adrenaline blurred my thoughts. We ran down the street, not looking back, until we reached the safety of a neighbor's house. I collapsed against the door, gasping for breath. The fear and confusion still gnawing at me. James, shaking and breathless, finally spoke. "I didn't want you involved in this, but I had no choice. I've been trying to protect you, protect all of us, from what I got tangled in. It's bigger than you think. I owed people, dangerous people. They wanted more than just money. They wanted control." My mind was reeling as the pieces clicked into place. The affair, the secret trips, the hidden phone, it wasn't just about cheating. It was about escaping a world of crime he'd been trying to leave behind, all while protecting us from getting dragged into it. We stayed hidden at the neighbor's house for hours, waiting until the danger passed. Eventually, we contacted the authorities. The investigation led to a series of arrests linked to illegal activities James had gotten involved with before meeting my mom. He wasn't a villain, but he wasn't the hero I thought he was either. It took months for everything to settle down. My mom eventually found out the truth, and though she was devastated, she understood the depth of the situation. The betrayal wasn't just in the affair, it was in the lies that kept us safe but kept us in the dark. And in the end, I learned that sometimes, the people we think we know the best are the ones with the most to hide.